Alright, I am back with another build, and today we're doing a bit of a weird one. Whereas most of the builds on my channel have been based on a concept, or a strategy, or a certain mechanic, or a build request, this one is none of those things. This is more of a fashion slash roleplay build, I guess. It's a little bit strange, but I'll get into the reasons why in a minute. So basically, the reason I'm doing this build is because I kind of saw this kind of outfit combination, this fashion, and thought, you know what, I'm a long-time fan of the Assassin's Creed series, and I really want to try to see if I can replicate that kind of, not really style of gameplay, but kind of feel of playing an Assassin's Creed game in Baldur's Gate 3, and I think I actually did an interesting job, but like I say, with this, it's more of a roleplay build. I mean, with the Assassin's Creed games, you're usually a solo assassin going around and doing, like, instant stealth kills and blah, 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 blah. You can't really do that in Baldur's Gate 3. Rogues are meant to work as part of a party, so it's a bit tricky to kind of replicate that assassin vibe in Baldur's Gate 3. However, I feel like in the right setting and with the right kind of ideas, you can definitely do something along those lines and have a lot of fun doing so. I'll kind of explain my kind of headspace as we get through the build, but let's get into it to start. So, first off, you're going to be a fighter. This is going to give us all of the armor and weapon proficiencies we could want, and is also going to grant us a fighting style, that being 2-weapon fighting. Now, the way I kind of envision this build is you are going to be kind of using the dual hidden blades, so that is going to be a dual daggers build, so we need 2-weapon fighting to get that off the ground, but also if you wanted to use some other tools from the Assassin's kit, you can go for long swords, short swords, whatever you want to do. It's entirely up to you. But we definitely need to pick up 2-weapon fighting, and a 1-level dip into fighter is never a bad shake either. Next up, our ability scores, which are a bit weird, but you need to trust me on this. We're going with a 17 in dexterity because we're going to be bumping this up with a half feat anyway, and we want this as high as we could possibly get it. Strength at 16 as well. This is because it affects our ability to jump, and with this build, jumping is going to be very important. Next up is Constitution. It's just enough to give us a decent chunk of HP, but not low enough to be too detrimental, although again, since we're more of a stealthy character, Constitution is not our biggest concern, and just a little bit of Charisma so we're not in the negatives for conversation, but you can swap that out for a 15 in Con if you so choose. As for our ability scores, again, these look a bit weird. You're going to be wanting, because we're starting as a fighter, you're going to be wanting to play a race that uses, that can grab stealth, so perhaps a elf of some kind, or in this case a human, and also I'm grabbing athletics and acrobatics. It's probably not too useful to have both of these, but I wanted to grab them both just for the roleplay aspect. But so mainly you want stealth, athletics, and acrobatics. At level 2 we're going to be leaving fighter immediately and going straight into rogue. Now, obviously with this build, if you want to replicate the kind of immediate instant kill that the Assassin's Creed games have, or at least the older ones did, we're going to be needing sneak attack, and we're going to need it to be at its highest possible damage modifier, which means we are going to be taking this to all the way to Rogue 11. Now, obviously, this might not be to everyone's taste. If you care less about the sneak attack and want some more martial capability, then doing a mix of Rogue and Fighter would work really, really well. Or even if you wanted to go for, even though this is a little bit out of tune, but if you wanted to go the barbarian route to get the Wild Heart Eagle to be able to do a jumping attack, to be able to deal damage and knock enemies prone, you could do that. However, I'm going to be showing you a way to get that without needing to take a barbarian dip, or at least get a similar effect. But anyways, for the purposes of this build, I'm going to be going for a pure rogue, but if you wanted to swap it out for some fighter levels, some barbarian levels, hell, some monk levels would even work really nicely, feel free to do whatever you like here. But I'm going to be showing off at least, I want to show off at least what a mostly rogue can do, because a lot of people basically will go into rogue, grab 3 or 4 levels for thief and a feat, and then dip out for whatever else they're trying to do, but I want to kind of show off what a rogue can really be like. So, let's grab our first level of rogue, as I said, grabbing sneak attack for melee and ranged. With a rogue level 2, we're going to be getting our bonus action hide, dash, and disengage, super, super useful. Now, the obvious choice here would be to go Thief if you're going a power building route that is going to give you an extra bonus action, and since we are dual wielding our daggers and also ranged weapons, I've thrown dual crossbows into this build, there's no reason not to take this. You would also gain resistance to falling damage, which is on theme. And you would gain an extra bonus action, like I said, to be able to do all that crazy dual-wielding shenanigans. However, for this build, again, specifically because this is the Assassin's Creed build, we're going to go with the Assassin. However, I do think Thief would be the stronger option overall if you care more about being a, I guess, a frontal fighter as well, basically getting that first sneak attack and then kind of engaging in combat. But I feel like with this build, again, we want to kind of be in a party. Maybe you could do like a party of assassins or a party of various different rogues. In fact, I think a party with an assassin, an arcane trickster, and a thief would actually be a really fun build kind of concept. But it's entirely up to you if you want to go with thief or assassin. But I'm going with assassin purely because it's going to have some abilities that I want to get for those big sneak attacks. First off, Assassinate Initiative. You are the deadliest against unprepared enemies. In combat, you have advantage on attack rolls against creatures that haven't taken a turn yet. So even if you're spotted, as long as you move first, which you will because of our initiative bonuses, you will be able to get those sneak attacks off and potentially one-hit kill any enemies you come across. Next up is Assassinate Ambush. Any successful attack roll against a surprised creature is a critical hit. This essentially means that not only are we going to be getting our ultra-powerful sneak attacks, if the opponent is not ready for you, you are going to be getting crits as well, which is awesome. And finally, Assassin's Alacrity. Quick as an alley cat in a rain dark city, you immediately restore your action and bonus action at the start of combat. So, this means that when you get your sneak attack and you start the combat round that way, you are going to be able to immediately get your action and bonus action back, whereas you may have lost your action because you did an attack normally. So you're going to be able to basically get extra attack this way in a weird, very weird roundabout way. Next up at total level 5, we're going to be a rogue 4, meaning we get our first feat. And of course, we're going to be going with the athlete feat, bumping up our dexterity to an 18. This is going to give you immensely high jumping distance, allowing you to dance across the rooftops of Baldur's Gate with ease, and then be able to sneak in through a high up door or window. Definitely want to pick up this feat for sure. It's going to bump up our dex and give us a lot of jumps. Next up at Rogue level 5, we're going to be getting Uncanny Dodge. Using your lightning quick reflexes to protect yourself when an attack hits you, you only take half the usual damage. This is going to make you way more tanky. Next up at Rogue level 6, we're going to be getting some skill expertise, and I'm going to suggest you take athletics for those big jumps, and the second one can be whatever you like. Acrobatics also works, although intimidation would be good for being able to get through certain dialogue options, which because of our lower charisma, this build is going to have a bit of trouble with, so this might be worth it here. But athletics or acrobatics and intimidation will work nicely. Next up at Rogue level 7, we are going to be grabbing Evasion. This is going to let you be even more tanky. When a spell or effect would deal half damage on a successful dex throw, it deals no damage if you succeed and only half damage if you fail. Slightly more niche than Uncanny Dodge, but definitely still worth grabbing, and we get it for free anyway. Next up at Rogue level 8, we're going to be grabbing another feat, and this means we are going to be able to grab an ability score improvement, bumping up our dex to that ever so awesome 20, maxing out our abilities with our finesse weapons and various other mechanics related to Rogue. Next up at Rogue level 9, we're going to be getting a unique ability to the Assassin. We're getting the Infiltration expertise. This basically lets you cast Disguise Self. I don't know why they decided that the best thing they could give a level 9 rogue was Disguise Self, a level 1 spell. It feels a bit meh, I must admit, and again, I think Thief gets like something else at this level that's way better. So honestly, I can see why a lot of people would want a multi-class out of Rogue, but again, we want that sneak attack damage, so we're going to be sticking with it. Next up at Rogue level 10, we're getting a feat? Is that right? Oh, now hold on. Is this a... Hold on. I need to check something. Here comes the hobo does research in the middle of a video portion of the video. Let's see. Rogue. Where is Rogue? There's Rogue. Rogues do not get it. Rogues get a feat at 10th level. I never noticed that. You know what? You think I'd pay attention. I guess we're getting a bonus feat at this level. That's quite nice for Rogue. Well, at this point then I can recommend the dual wielder feat. This is going to give you a +1 to your armor class while wielding a melee weapon in each hand, which you can do, and would also enable you to be able to dual wield with weapons that aren't light. So maybe if you wanted to wield a long sword in one hand and your offhand dagger in the other, you could do something along those lines. Maybe a finesse longsword like Laurentian's Wrath would work pretty well here. And finally, at Rogue level 11, this is going to be where our sneak attack is maxed out. We now have the maximum possible sneak attack. I wish it showed it on the level up screen, but I'll show it at the end anyway. We're also going to be grabbing reliable talent. When you make an ability check with a skill you are proficient with, the lowest you can roll on the die is a 10, making you very, very adept at sneaking and pickpocketing with our rogue abilities. And that is the build. Now, obviously, this is not the most interesting kind of multi-class combination because we're literally just going 5-to-1 Rogue 11. But again, this is going to give us the maximum possible bonus on our sneak attacks, which is going to be 6d6. So with our daggers, we're going to be getting a 1d4 plus 7 from our dagger, and then a 6d6 piercing bonus when we sneak attack, which we will be able to do a lot of. And again, if you are with a party, you can use the flanking kind of rules to be able to get this off way more, but it also does work if you're kind of going for a solo type of strategy, just for fun, and again for roleplay. So let's get into our equipment. Now for this fashion in particular, we've got a few distinct pieces, but I'll be able to show off some alternatives. Please excuse my inventory here because this is actually my Dante character profile, because I wanted to show off this build in Act 3 because obviously that makes the most sense. So I decided to load him up for old time's sake because he was a human, and like obviously that gets me most of what I want here. So starting off, we have the Assassin of Ball Cowl. You can see in the dark up to 3 meters. In addition, you gain a +2 bonus to initiative rolls, and you can cast See Invisibility once per short rest. This is just going to basically give you that kind of hooded look. There's not that many hoods in the game, but if you wanted to maybe go an Arcane Trickster route, you could grab the Hood of the Weave, or you could also go for the Covert Cowl. This is going to give you a kind of face mask, but I still think it works for the build quite nicely, and it's also going to give you a Covert Critical. While obscured, the number you need to roll a critical hit while attacking is reduced by 1. This effect can stack, so it is just going to give you that little bit of a buff to your critical hit chance, although we do get that guaranteed most of the time when we, surprise an enemy anyway. So I actually do quite like this just for the fashion a bit more, because again, assassins didn't really have those face masks things in the games. Second off, we have the Cloak of Displacement. At the beginning of the wearer's turn, the cloak activates, granting enemies disadvantage on attack rolls against the wearer. This effect lasts until the wearer takes damage. I just wanted a kind of like shoulder cape type look that most of the Assassin's Creed games have, and this was a pretty good option. Next up, the Padded Armor +2. Again, this is not the strongest armor in the game, but I'm actually kind of really preferring it because it's so fashionable. And this is one of the best armors to actually get the Assassin's Creed look with the white and red, because again, the way armor sets interact with dyes in this game is very, very weird. For the record, all of I'll show off quickly the dyes that I am using for this clothing. We are using a combination of Sinful Red on Bone White, White and Scarlet, and Muddy Red for the boots and gloves. So with that, like I say, the Padded Armor +2 does exist. You can get this quite early on, and again, it's probably the most fashionable option. But if you don't care so much about the color scheme, you can grab the Ballist Armor in Act 3. Again, this is more red than white, which I don't really like, but it still kind of works. And this is going to make any enemies within 2 meters of you vulnerable to piercing damage, meaning they're going to be taking double damage from our sneak attacks, critical hits, and regular dagger strikes. So this would actually probably be the most powerful option you could grab for combat. But again, if you wanted to stick purely with the fashion, Padded Armor +2 does look better in my opinion, although this is obviously the power option. Next up is the Stalker Gloves. You gain a +1 bonus to initiative rolls. Awesome, we want that. Also, your sneak attack deals an additional 1d4 force damage. Just a nice little extra buff to our damage, and a buff to our initiative rolls, which as an assassin we really like. And finally, the Bone Spike Boots. You have a +1 bonus to armor class and saving throws as long as you are not wearing armor or holding a shield. Unfortunately, we are wearing armor, so we're not going to be getting that buff. However, if you wanted to maybe find some clothing, you could do that instead, and this would work. But what we're really here for is our increased jump distance, which we want, and also Brutal Leap. Leap at a target and possibly knock it prone. This is meant to be our aerial assassination technique if we don't go with the diving strike from Eagle Bard. Barbarian. I'm so used to using bards. Basically what this is going to do is give you, once per turn as a bonus action, you can jump at a creature, giving you much more mobility, and then have a chance to knock it prone. What this essentially means is that, you can then get advantage on them really easily once they are laying on the floor. So this is, and it also fits quite on theme for like the aerial assassinations that Assassin's Creed gets. As for our weapons, we have 2 of the dollar Armourus. You can get 2 of these in a single playthrough. One drops from an assassin type enemy in Act 3, and the other one can be bought from a vendor in Act 3 as well, if you kind of join this game's version of the Assassin's Guild, which I feel like you might want to do. Basically, 2 of these in either hand is going to mean you can dual wield quite nicely, and these are both daggers that I think look the closest to the hidden blades with their straight design and hilt. But also, when you land a critical hit with this weapon, which we will be doing a lot, it deals an additional 7 damage, so it's just pumping on that extra damage. It's also a +2 dagger as a base, and you'll be able to do this with a dual attack as well, which is quite nice. Also, I know in the Assassin's Creed games that they only use a single crossbow, but since we are here, we might as well dual-wield crossbows as well. So I've gone with the typical Hellfire hand crossbow and Near Misser. This is the strongest crossbow combo that you can get in-game, and it's going to give you a ton of extra benefits, one being a +2, one being a +1, and you can also cast Magic Missile and Scorching Ray. Even though that's not quite on theme, we might as well take it. If you need something in the meantime until you get to the Bone Spike boots, I'm just kind of mentioning this now, there's also the Swarzy shoes, which will give you that jump distance increase anyway. Oh, and I will also quickly point out, you may see that here that my strength is 19. Again, this is my Dante profile, so I have the Everlasting Vigor Potion and the Artieffel's Boon here. I do recommend if you pick up the Everlasting Vigor Potion, that is going to bump up your strength to an 18, meaning you're going to be able to jump even further and get more out of strength-based weapons if you do decide to use them. So I would recommend grabbing that as well in Act 2. So yeah, I believe I've covered everything here. I don't think I've missed much. So yeah, that is the build. Basically what this build kind of hopes to accomplish is that kind of Assassin's Creed style playstyle, with the ability to kind of jump at enemies, get in sneak attacks, do massive amounts of damage with criticals and sneaks, and just be able to do a ton of different things, while still being on fashion and being able to roleplay. You'll see in the combat footage, which I'm actually going to let just play on its own after I've kind of done this little bit, because I kind of wanted to let that kind of show off on its own, because it's a very, very different style of combat showcase. So I'll get through this last bit really, really quickly. Basically, not much to talk about here. I'm still working on some more builds. I'm decided that I'm going to try and get through the massive backlog of build requests I have. So the next few videos are going to be build requests. I am looking at your comments. As well as, obviously, my deity build is going to be coming out sometime in the future. Again, I'm putting those on the back burner for now because I kind of want to work on other stuff. However, those deity builds will come back in the future. And also, I just wanted to share a quick moment that absolutely just made my week. This happened yesterday as of the time of recording. I was scrolling through Twitch, and I seriously hope the person in question here doesn't mind me sharing this. But I was scrolling through Twitch, and I noticed a Twitch streamer who was using a Bard of Elistray build, or Elistray, I keep forgetting how it's pronounced, and I was like, there's no way, right? So I kind of dove into their chat, and I kind of started watching the stream for a bit, you know, participating in chat, and then I just like, by the way, what build are you running, just out of curiosity? And I'm just gonna let this clip play, because again, it absolutely made my week.
Ooh, Dancer of the Street. Oh my god, that sounds like... I think I know that video! Wait a minute! That's what inspired it! Wait a minute! Wait a minute. Wait a minute. That's where I recognize your username from. I love your channel, by the way. Love your channel, by the way.
So with that, shout out to 666 Red Dog over on Twitch. They were super, super kind, super, super fun to hang out with. A very, very cool stream. And obviously, thank you for your support. And I really, really hope you don't mind me showing that little clip, because like I say, it absolutely made my week. It was so cool to actually see someone using my build and having a lot of fun with it. And also being supportive of the channel and recognizing me in chat, which was super, super fun. But anyways, I hope they don't mind me showing that, but it was super, super cool. Anyways, I'm going to let the combat footage play now, combat footage in quotations, and I'll see you in a bit. Or next time, I guess. Man, I'm bad at these outros.
Breathe quiet. Move with care.
Security's tightened since Gortash's death. You stay in your designated district.
Oh, come on, Surface.
been caught trespassing. Again.
These boots have seen everything.